sitting on my eagle.
Well, I guess there's worse places you could be sitting.
Yeah, there's worse places. I nearly sat on the cat earlier. The cat likes to sleep on this particular chair, but I can see that they both moved to the armchair. Bless them, fast asleep. So we're live. Is anyone joining? Maybe it's just
Nope, it's just us so far. It's a weird time for us. So hopefully the ladies got the memos. And we've been really kind of behind on everything because we're in the middle of doing inventory. And doing inventory in our shop is a nightmare.
Okay, like stock take.
Yeah. Oh, wait, Dorothy's here and Cindy Gygax is here. Dorothy Reed, not Dorothy. Oh gosh, now Gerard. We've got two Dorothys, so it makes things confusing sometimes. Well, welcome Dorothy and Cindy and Kathleen. So I just want to introduce Sophie. For those of you who don't know her, Sophie is from Kenya, but originally from the UK. But I'll let her explain all that because it's kind of complicated. But we've got Karen who says good morning from Auburn, California. Tony Nicholas is watching, Nan Willis. So we've got people from all over. So Sophie, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes. Have we got new people watching, or is this all same people?
Well, it only shows me if they make a comment. So girls, comment and tell me where you're from.
Who knows?
Because there's quite a few more watching that haven't commented.
Okay.
But we've got Barbara Fulp from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I'm assuming, not California. I know, Karen, look, I've got tea right here with honey.
Good.
Tammy from Illinois is joining us. And I just sent out an email to the people registered for the Bald Eagle. So hopefully they get that in time to log in.
Good. Okay, so yeah, I'm British, but I've lived in Africa for over 20 years now. 10 years in South Africa and 12 years in Kenya. Yeah, because Finn will be 13 in about 7 days' time, and we moved here just before his first birthday. So 12 years in Kenya. And I've been doing textile art for 13 years. Finn had just been born when I started creating my first 3 pieces, and that was for a friend in Cape Town. She wanted me to create some collages for her shop for the walls, incorporating drawing and fabric and thread, and we just kind of came up with this idea because I used to sew on some of the clothes that I made. I used to use the darning foot and draw funny little pictures on some of the clothes I used to make and sell in Cape Town. And she said, "Oh, I'm sure you could do them big, see if you can do some pictures for the shop." So that's kind of how it started. And so I've never taken a workshop or studied it. I mean, I did a degree in wood, metal, ceramics, and textiles. It was a whole craft degree. Also, but traditional arts and crafts, so using the wooden lathe and in the forge, annealing metals. A lot of people were doing metal work, and some of the guys were building furniture. So it was very much geared up to production. It wasn't just a sort of messing about craft. It was a lot of making things production to sell, which it was a fantastic course actually. So and it kind of just happened really. I did some pieces for a friend, and then some tourists liked what they saw when they visited Cape Town and the shop, and commissioned me. And then it just kind of happened. It wasn't something that I expected to do or kind of set out to do textile art and think, hey, I'm going to try and sell them. I'm going to try put them in a gallery. It just sort of flowed. And I think the fact that I started doing it when the kids were little was also quite good, because it meant that it was like a hobby in between, looking up, because the kids are only 20 months apart. So I had them very close together. So it was just a nice way of being creative whilst looking after the little ones and not expecting too much from it, I suppose, which is kind of nice, just experimenting, which I try and put across in all the workshops that I do, that I'm experimenting even now, doing this elephant that I've just started today. And I'm only using K fabric for it. And I don't think I've ever done a piece so big that's just been using the K Facet Collective. So it's always experimenting. And that's just kind of what I was doing at the beginning. And I think if we have in our head that we're making something that we've got to sell or put in an exhibition, it can be a bit too much pressure on us. So I think that, I think that's the beauty of it. I think that's what we have to try and, even if it is to sell, we have to try and tell ourselves that, to try and relax us and enjoy the process of it and not make too big a deal out of it.
Right.
Get too.
Well, and it is a lot of pressure when you're making a commission for somebody and they have ordered it in advance. It's not like you made something and they saw it already done and they fell in love with it and bought it. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And actually, in a way, sometimes it's easier when they don't get involved too much. It's wonderful when we choose the pictures together, and we do obviously talk about colors and things. And, they'll say if they don't want any mauve or blue in it or yellow or something. But it kind of, I think it works best when they say, Sophie, we like what you do. We want that giraffe or whatever animal it is. And we'll just leave it up to you to be creative, because if you're told too much from a client, it kind of it puts too much pressure on that you're doing it correct to how they want it. If they just let you, let everything flow, it comes out a lot better in the end.
Right. Okay, girls. So if you're just joining, we have Sophie Standing here. She's a textile artist. She is from Kenya, and she is teaching the Bald Eagle collage workshop for us starting in January. If you have any questions whatsoever, just type them in, and we'll have Sophie answer them. Can I have the original photo to do the whole bird? Yes, Phyllis. Yes. It doesn't matter what we set as guidelines or what we structure the class as. The students always rule the roost. So, yes.
A peacock, a seagull, an owl,
Right.
I also think, what? So this photo I've got here is really cropped. I haven't even got any of the back on this photo. So if you wanted to just do a head with like just a little bit of the wing, you could do that. I don't know whether any of you have seen some of the artworks I've done of other eagles and secretary birds. A secretary bird is an African bird that stomps around, and you see them often stomping up with very, very big long legs. They stomp around and kill the snakes in the savannah and eat them. And I've done this. They're very big birds, but I've only ever done the head and often the eyes, probably about this big. The pieces they're really big, and that could be really nice just to concentrate on getting that eye and the texture of the beak and the feathers where they stick out around this beak here where they stick up and all sort of under here, or you can take it a bit further. So this is the actual eagle, and do part
right
of
here. I'm gonna
wing,
make you big. Hang on a second.
And get some of these lovely feathers in. And then I kind of filtered them out and sort of let the whole thing sort of disappear, as it were. So some of them are in more detail than others. And here's the head. But you could go a lot larger and do an enormous, it is quite big. You can see it against me. It's still quite a big piece.
It's a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah. So, on this piece, if I could go further and do the feet on this. There's enough room because his body just comes down like that, and then his feet are there. So I just didn't want to do the feet on this one, but I have done on the workshop. I've done a foot guidelines for you as well. Here's my little foot. There's my eagle foot.
Perfect.
Okay.
And
that would be all you would need extra, because when I talk about the feathers and the wing, those things are just carried on down. Just the repetition of, and like in the past, how we have done some very lifelike feathers, and then others are, the bits of beautiful fabric, the flowers and leaves that we've picked out of the fabric. So I'm going back the other way. It's a bit complicated, this back to front business. But yeah, if you wanted to do a very large head, just a portrait of the eagle, you could do that as well. It's totally up to you. If you use, the same picture, you can crop it and enlarge it and, take whatever aspects. And I think that's also really important in the workshop, to take what you want from it and to learn the parts in detail that you want to you want to understand and experiment with. That's
right.
That's
right.
the important thing.
Tammy says he is really gorgeous. And Tony and Dorothy and Phyllis, I will get you the original. I will send it to everybody that's enrolled. I'll send the original bird. Kathleen says she's not attempted any textile art, but she's amazed at the beauty and creativity of your pieces.
Oh, thank you. I think you'll find it really fun if you haven't done it before. I think sometimes it's almost at an advantage. I've had people who've done my workshops who have actually never used a sewing machine. I taught in England a couple of years ago. I did my first 2 workshops in the UK, and a friend of my sister's who does a lot of handwork, and she makes felted animals but loves doing hand embroidery. She has a sewing machine but just never really uses it. She thought, I'd love to come and do the workshop. So she'd never done free motion anything. I think maybe she'd sewn a zip in a cushion or taken off a pair of jeans. And she actually did so well because she had no preconceived ideas of how she should and shouldn't be doing it. She just really experimented and played and enjoyed making the textures and enjoyed the fabrics and just really experiment and have fun with it. That's what it's about.
Perfect. Yeah, they're all chiming in that they would like the whole bird.
Okay.
And then Cindy Gygax would like you to show the eagle again. She lost her internet.
I will show you. I'll stand back a bit. Don't want to trip over an animal.
And Carolyn, you would not be too slow. The web, it's actually on the website for 2 months. It's on Facebook for 2 months, and then you have access to it for 6 months. And then go back to a time. Yep, there you go. So they can see the bottom. Perfect. Okay, all right, so, Cindy, can you see it?
Can you go a bit closer?
Yep, it looks good. So can you kind of explain for those who are joining who haven't signed up for the workshop how the Facebook private page works?
Yes. It's quite amazing. I don't know how long it's been running. This nearly fell on the floor. I couldn't find my seat. It's quite amazing. Before COVID, pre-COVID, there was a lot of things in life that we didn't know that we know now. And I never knew that Facebook, you could use Facebook groups, private groups, as a class or a working tool or a workshop. And I don't know whether it came about during COVID or whether it just always been there, and myself and other, art teachers, textile arts teachers, we just didn't know about it. But so it's a private group, so you'll be invited by Beth and Christy, the Fabric Chicks. They will invite you the night before to this private group, and it's all set into units. So at the top, where you would normally see where it says videos, photos, shop, or whatever it is, a little menu bar at the top, they have I think it's called guides now. Originally it was units, it's now guides. You click on that, and every process, whether it's from the background, creating the background fabric, to cutting out your template, drawing, transferring, your stencil template onto your background canvas with a pencil and a pen, choosing fabrics, doing your applique. Everything is set into individual units. So let's say unit 5 might be creating the beak. So in that unit 5 of the beak, I will talk about the texture of the beak, the lovely definition and the smooth lines that you will create to get that lovely sharp effect on the beak. I'll show you on the eagle. And then or this lovely straight line and how to it's a wiggly line, but you know what I mean, it's straight and definite. I probably went over about 6 times back and forth very slowly along here. So I'll show you how to put your template back onto your applique to draw things out, get all the shading and the highlights. And so each unit follows from start to finish the whole process. There are videos, but there are also stills as well, still photos. So sometimes I will do photos of just the applique, and then the next one will be the black thread of the eye, and then the next photo might be the gray that I put in the eye, and then the next one will be the white that I put in the eye, so that you can see the build up of each color every time I will add it to a certain part of the creature that we're doing. And I think this, I can't remember, is this is the 4th or the 5th workshop since COVID. But yeah, it seems to be running really well, and it's a very nice community for people to come together and chat if they want to. You can show your work and people can comment on your work. I will comment for the first month. I will look every day at any questions or comments that people have made. But it also means that you can comment on each other's work. But it also allows you to have that privacy as well, because I know sometimes it can be quite daunting in a workshop where if you're not necessarily working as fast as somebody else, or you're new to it and you can see people opposite you or next to you rushing through and they're far ahead, there's not that sense of pressure or anxiety to kind of work quickly. You really can work at your own pace and be as interactive as you want to. I think with the group, that's probably the nicest thing. You can post constant pictures. I will also put my email address so that people would prefer to write to me privately about something rather than putting it on the page. If you're stuck with something and you want a bit more in-depth help, I'm there to help with that as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, for sure. Okay, Dorothy says she's really studying the background. She hasn't been happy with her backgrounds. She'd like to do multiple colors, but has a hard time making them look good. Do you have any suggestions?
I do. Hold on. I'm just going to get another background that I thought I couldn't find it. And I was tidying up the workshops there and I found it. So it's similar to this one with just sort of greens on it. Let me go get it.
Okay, girls. So this is your opportunity to type in any questions you have for Sophie. Anything you want to know before the class starts. Anything you're having trouble with. Let's see, what other things might you want to know of Sophie?
I can't find that background again. I don't know what's going on today. I thought that background. Now I can't find it. I've got so many pieces of like canvas and half done projects. I've actually just got the raccoon here from the one we did a long time ago. Now, I wanted to show you that. So this is the front, and I actually got this out today, and I thought, I really need to finish this raccoon. So there's quite a few different colors on this background. It's really mottled. So I sometimes I like them really faded and mottly if I want, this to really stand out. So don't worry if you don't think it's detailed enough. It can be subtle. It really doesn't have to be dark and dense. But what's quite nice, if you wash it a couple of times, iron it, and then wet it again and flick some more paint on, just lightly, just build up those layers of paint, let it dry, and then wash it again. Now I chose the lighter side, so this looks a bit weird with the sewing, but you can see how much darker that is on that side. And I actually found that I thought it was going to be too dark. I didn't want all that deep, especially down there, all those deep colors. So for the raccoon, I turned it around, and I really liked the subtlety of this. And the eagle, now what is on the other side? See, the other side was quite subtle, but for this one, I kind of liked it a bit deeper. But I just went with one color because as if he was in the forest, as if it was sort of leaves, but also it's got a kind of bluey tinge to him as well. I knew that there was going to be a lot going on, almost like fish scales. There's a lot going on here, whereas some animals, like an elephant, they don't have all this different texture. It literally is just lines. So sometimes I like something a bit more detailed for things like elephants. But it's such a personal thing. There's no right or wrong with your background. I've had ladies in workshops use a navy denim, a really, really dark denim, and throw bleach at it and scrunch it up, almost like tie-dye, and bleach it and then flick paint on it. So they have such a dark background. It really can be so striking. What's the other one I got here? Oh no, that's my foot. I'm sure I had another one.
And really, in case people are afraid of painting, you literally just flick and throw the paint on willy-nilly.
Yes, exactly.
And you do show that in one of the first units, you do show how you paint the background. So
yeah, exactly. And I think in this workshop, I might have done I might have even put two different ones. One, an old one from quite a long time ago, but yeah, even the newer one that I've put on for this workshop, I really do flick it. I like acrylic paint, and I guess because I have come from an artist's background, I've never really used much fabric paints before, and I love acrylic paint because you can use it like a watercolor, really watery, and flick it and dilute it so that it just gives that little subtle change in color, or you can use it quite thick. So, but I literally get a bowl of water and mix it up so it's really watery, and I just keep layering and layering and flicking the colors on until it's really dense. I let it dry. If it's not sunny, don't worry, it'll still dry. Let it dry, and then I wash it. And sometimes I'll wash some of the color out in the sink, because I want to run with the washing machine. And then sometimes if it's too dense in one area, let me show you with this, you can actually almost see, can you see those lines on there? Can you see those white lines?
Yeah, yep.
Is that clear? So what I do is I scrunch in the sink. So sometimes I will scrunch this like that, and I rub it with a scouring pad, like a scouring pad that you use for washing the dishes, and then when you open it up, you've got those white lines, so it'll take the paint off. I'm going the wrong way. It'll take the paint off where the crease is. So quite a lot of the time I find that they can be too dark, so I'm trying to rub back, and I sometimes use stones, like if the canvas is thick enough, like a pumice, and rub areas with a pumice. Obviously you put it in a hotter wash in your washing machine. If you put it on a 60, it'll even more will come out. But also if you put the paint on too thick, you won't get it out. It'll become really, really dark, and it's very hard to get the paint out. The lighter the wash, the more watery that your paint wash is, then the easier it is to get some of it out. But yeah, I often have to put more on and find that it's come out too much. I've even been known to put more on at the end when I've actually completely finished, and then I will almost put my template completely over, sellotape my template back together, put it on over the animal, and then flick a bit more paint if I think it needs a bit more pink or black in one area. And then that paper will cover where your sewing and applique is, and then I will put a bit more paint on. Yeah.
So really, it's just an experiment. You don't really have, you can't control it. It just ends up how it ends up. So you might want to do a couple of backgrounds and see which one you like best.
For sure. And definitely turn it over, because paint and things seep through, and sometimes you might like a different area. And also be mindful that this bird is going to take up most of the middle. So where, it's not going to, you're only going to see that outside bit. Middle bit's all going to be covered with the bird anyway.
Could they use watercolor paint?
You already concentrate on the outside, but quite a lot of it will be covered with your applique and your painting.
Can they use watercolor paints?
You can, but watercolor will wash out. Yeah. Okay.
So acrylic will be
some
more.
watercolors. Some watercolors might stain, but generally the thing with acrylic is that it's plastic based. So when it dries, it's plastic. So it doesn't come out. You'll know, if you've ever got it on your clothes, which I do all the time, or shoes, it's quite difficult to get off. And if it dries on a plate, you can actually almost peel it off like a piece of rubber. It's plastic based paint, right. So it's quite good for holding in, which is why I'm saying if you do it, if you use it like a watercolor, and then you're just flicking on, you get all these delicate little spots like watercolor blobs.
Right. And Cindy says that's a great idea. She never thought to add paint after. And let's see. Phyllis wants to know if your live talks will be recorded. She'll be out of town when the first one is scheduled. I don't think that there's one scheduled, Phyllis. Is there?
I haven't scheduled yet. What day is the 14th anyway?
I think it's a Friday.
Is it a Friday? So I may not. I don't know what. Maybe my first one will be the welcome. There's no much point doing a welcome on a Friday and then a live on a Saturday, really. So maybe we'll do the kind of welcome live at the same time. If it's the weekend, that kind of makes sense. And then the following weekend. But if it's tricky for people on some Saturdays or Sundays, I don't mind doing it at a different time. We'll just have to, even if I get up earlier and we do it on I don't know, we'll just figure it out, the best time. I haven't actually set a time for the first one yet. I'll chat to Beth.
But they're all recorded.
On some, yeah, they're always put on the page.
Yeah, they're all recorded so you can watch them later. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we've had students spanning the globe. I've had to do 2. So I've done one in the morning in Kenya, one in the evening, so that I can reach New Zealand and France and America, everybody, so that everyone can tune in at some point.
Right. And we do have, okay, wait a second. I think we've got a weird, let me get rid of this one.
What's the
block user? I know, they just pop on. Okay, let's see. Kathy Meyer says it's good to see you. And she's asking about resizing the project. We will be emailing the original photo because there's lots of you that want to make it different sizes, Kathy. So okay. That will be coming soon. And let's see. Mickey says she would be interested in knowing the different shades of yellow that Sophie uses in the beak. The number on the thread spools would be helpful.
Okay. I think I mentioned it in some of my videos, but you want them in advance.
It's really going to wouldn't it kind of depend on what yellow they're using for their fabric?
Definitely. So the yellow fabric I use, because actually his beak, it depends what picture you look at. The picture I had printed out was quite yellow. But when I looked at it on my iPad, but of course, I use my iPad for filming. So I was doing my bird through looking at the photo. And it wasn't until later on, I was looking at the bird on my iPad after I'd filmed some of my videos, like, ooh, it's actually quite orangey. And I've done it really yellow because it's actually quite orange in some of the pictures. Do you find that, everybody, that it's kind of different each thing? So mine is actually quite yellow. And I did add a goldy. I did then do a goldy orange, but this is a really vibrant yellow. This is almost a luminous. It's a Liberty fabric with little like leaves on it, but it was super luminous. It may be that I'm just going to randomly grab a piece of K-facet fabric here. So this is a really old Philip Jacobs, which has got lots of sort of yellows on. It may be that, it's something like, I can't get used to this back upside down filming. That something like this could be really interesting. So I think that's a melon in the fruit basket. Any kind of orangey yellows could
that work. Leaf looks like a perfect beak.
Yes, exactly. Well, this one, I've actually only got Cave in front of me because I'm doing a cave thing at the minute. Well, that's rather lovely. Even with these pinky colors in it, that's beautiful. Look at that. That's rather lovely. That's perfect beak shape already, that. So yes, I will definitely put my colors down, but it does depend. And people who've done workshops with me before and workshops in person with me, it does very much depend on the fabrics you've got down there. And I will often go over to my ridiculous display of orifles and randomly pick up what I think's right. And I'll get to my machine and be like, ooh, that's completely off. It's a lot more blue than that. So, just definitely match it up against your fabrics as well. You're going to obviously not want exactly the same tone as your fabric because as you won't see the thread and that's kind of pointless. What you want to do is go a shade lighter or a shade darker, but the same hue. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And so basically how many different yellow threads did you use in the beak? Like 4 or 5?
I think it was 5. Let me just.
So 5 yellows, girls, try to have on hand. And Barbara says every device will have a different look to the color depending on what the color settings are on the device. So matching up is pretty tricky.
Exactly. That's also with, I remember that with when I was doing my first lot of prints many years ago. I went to see a printer in London and we were talking about calibration of computers. And I really didn't understand it at first, but now I do. That an image will look a different color on everybody's screen. So obviously sometimes, when someone's asking to buy a print, I just have to let them know that it might not look exactly like what you get. because yeah, it's weird how everything looks different at every device that you're on, whether it's a phone or a tablet or someone's big computer. Yeah, I can definitely give out my colors. And I think in quite a lot of my videos, I remember reading out the bottom, especially of some of the grays and the browns and colors like that I used in it.
And Kathleen wants to know, how many days does it take to finish a project? Say like the Eagle, because the bigger projects would definitely be longer.
For you guys, or for me, sort of working full time? Because for me, it's a full time, job. So Monday to Friday, I'll do between 6 and 8 hours. I know that some of my students will rattle it off and be done in 2 weeks, but that's because they're not doing anything else and they're just. But you've got 6 months to do it. So if you're working a few hours every day on it, you could have it done in 3 weeks. Definitely, if you're doing it a few hours each day. Definitely, because you've got there's nothing else interrupting you as well with an online workshop. You're by yourself in your studio and you've got everything around you, and you can rewatch the videos over and over again. And so when I'm at the beginning of each stage, when I'm talking about, on your table, you need to have your template, your scissors. I was tidying up my area today. Everyone knows I'm, like tidying up my area at the end of the day. So I've got, my fabric scissors, my paper scissors. I've got my pen, my pencil, my glue. I don't know how to turn my screen around. So you'll see that I was actually laid out all my fabrics neatly today at the end of my own little workshop here. I was doing this big elephant, so I put all my fabrics neatly. So yeah, when you're working at home in your studio, you'll get into a routine of working like that, and there's no one to distract you. You're not at a workshop, lots of people.
So do you really work that organized with everything all folded so nicely, or did you just clean it up for us?
No, I do. I have to. When I'm doing an applique, so that fabric, I wanted to get the head and the ear done today, and most of the trunk. I haven't done the end of the trunk. It's a really big piece. So I wanted my target for this afternoon was to get the head and that ear done and most of the trunk. But so all my fabric was laid like that at the beginning. By the time I'd finished, it was everywhere and I couldn't really see the elephant. So I was like, right, tomorrow I'm going to start on the body. I'm going to finish off the trunk and the tusks. I'm going to start on the body. So I'm going to fold all my fabrics so that I know, because after a while you can't actually see what you've got. And you're like, I'm sure I had some other light ones. I'm sure I had some other blues. So yes, when I'm working, doing the applique process, yes, every day I will fold everything. Or let's say I'm doing it in one day, I will definitely fold them all up again at lunchtime for a break.
Oh my gosh, you're my hero. I want to be like you when I grow up.
But I think when it's your job, you have to be, though. I mean, that's what I think it's the same if you spoke to a painter. They would have to make sure that they've got all their paint colors ready at the beginning of a day, or, washing all their paintbrushes at the end of the day and having them laid out ready for the next morning. And, kind of, it's like people working in an office, kind of closing their computer and putting everything neat and tidy, because otherwise you just can't. Well, we know
chaos.
what it's like when it's chaos.
Yeah.
When we're making anything, it's chaos. I'm knitting a jumper at the moment, which I've been doing for months. And it gets in chaos, and you can't remember which is the back and the front and the sleeve and the whatever. So you have to lay it all out and, work out what you're actually doing and which way's the raglan going on something. And so it's not laid out neat like that, obviously, through the whole process. But each time I move on to another stage, I have to get everything together. Otherwise, I'll end up forgetting fabric that I know that I really wanted to use, and I can't, you can't see the wood for the trees, or whatever the saying is. So yeah, I do tidy up. And the same with my studio. My studio can sometimes be in a total mess, and then I just can't bear it anymore, and I'll have to tidy it all up and make it, put everything back to normal. Everything in its place.
Yeah, I think I would fall under the total mess category. Okay,
I'm sure
Susan
you
says,
have your times of tidying.
It never gets done because I just start another project. It's ridiculous. Susan says, can you give us an idea of how many colors of thread they should have on hand?
For the whole project?
Yes.
Okay. I can I just go to my studio and get some of my threads?
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
there.
And yeah. Yep. And it really does depend on the different colors that you're going to choose to use in your applique. So if you girls are new to joining, or if there's anybody new to joining, we have Sophie Standing from Kenya, and she is explaining her process of how she does her textile art collages. If you have any questions, now's the time to pop them into the comments, and Sophie will answer them for us. It's kind of a treat to actually get Sophie on the camera, because the time difference is really hard.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's, what's the time? 20 to 10 in the evening. So I'm just getting a lot of yellows. Gosh, you see, there are so many, you know, so that, I mean, these are super vibrant yellows. And then there's sort of more buttery colors. Oh, but I mean, these are all the colors that I use. And then a really pale. That's a yellow, but it's very pale. I can definitely give these numbers.
That pale yellow is one of my favorites.
Which one? This goldy one? No, that one. That one.
So really, you've got like 5 or 6. So you pull because you are an Aurifil ambassador. You have all the colors, which is like 200 and something.
I wish I did have 270. I actually don't. See, that's quite nice. That's a blue. Color. I did use that. I definitely used that in there. I can actually see it while I'm holding it against. That's a really nice gray. And then there are these kind of grays. And then there's a real blue. I'm just getting all the colors out that I've used. I can write them all down. Oh, that's a green. That's not right. Where did that come from? That was from something else. Slatey greens. See, that looks very green when I hold it up to you, but when I put it to my work, and I can see that I've used it in there. I will jot all these down. I probably had, how many spools have I got? 4, 6. I probably had between 25 and 30 colors, I think, for the whole project.
Perfect.
And then I love
perfect. So you really need a lot. Are all the threads the same weight?
30 is good. Sorry?
Are all of the threads the same weight? 50 weight, I think.
I used all 50 weight, but you don't have to. Some people prefer slightly thicker. Some people prefer the 40 weight. I prefer 50 weight. I did used to, when I was using other makes, use a 40. I've been told by Aurifil to use the black in a 40 weight. I haven't yet, naughty me, but because I find it breaks a lot more, the black. It's because it takes so much dyeing, the process of dyeing the cotton, that it becomes very brittle.
What size needle are you using?
Do you know? I don't know, because I have such complicated needles. Dorothy will understand this, because she also has the same sewing. The Janome is, I find, I just randomly order the same needles that I was given when I bought the machine, because they work, but I don't really understand the needles. Before, I used to, with the Schmidt's needles, I used to buy the jeans or the denim needle. I think it was 90, is that right? Whereas these new ones, the HLX something, honestly, I don't know what they are. But if you're using Beninas, I would normally buy or any other machine that takes the normal standard needle. I used to really enjoy the denim needles and the jeans needles. Sometimes you used to get the titanium ones. Is Dorothy there?
Dorothy is here. Dorothy, what size needles do you guys use?
The same machine as me. She will understand what I'm talking about with this Janome.
Sometimes when I have the thread breaking, if I just use a bigger needle, which it's kind of crazy, the sizes of the needles is opposite the size of thread.
Yeah, no, that's true.
We could do a whole lesson on threads and needles.
But then when I'm doing a very small, so let me just go and get that tiny little hummingbird I've just done. Sorry, I'm going back and forth to the quite a bit.
That's okay. So girls, if you're just joining, if you have any questions for Sophie, this is your chance to type it in the comments and we'll have her answer them. The hummingbird is absolutely gorgeous.
So this little hummingbird I've just done, you see the eye it's actually smaller than my fingernail. So and I didn't want my needle to show, the point, especially doing these detailed flowers in here. So I used a really small needle. And you know what? I still don't. I know it's smaller because I could see the difference in the size, but I still haven't worked out the numbers on these crazy XL, whatever H weird needles. They're like, you put them in sideways as well in this. The thread comes down and in from the side. So if I'm doing a very small, detailed, a tiny embroidery, then I will definitely use a thinner needle because I find it shows too much. I can't get that really detailed
and
work around the eye. Whereas first,
and when you do that, are you still using the 50 weight threads, not a finer thread?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the 50 weight.
Dorothy,
Orifil did 80 to practice with, but I found the 80 was just too fine. It was too fine.
It takes forever to show, so you have to go back and forth over your work so much. Dorothy says she's still experimenting with her new HD9. So far, the needles it came with, mostly 9014 for thread painting historically.
Okay. 9014. Okay.
So
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, and a 9014 is good for the canvas also because the canvas is thicker. So the 9014 is a sturdier needle. So like a 70 needle, you would just break. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I also find it, it probably is a 9014. I know that I was given a smaller one, a larger one, and generally they've been really good, actually, very strong. They don't break often. And I switch between the thicker one and the thinner one depending on what size project I'm doing.
Right. Well, and then Dorothy Thomas Reed. I know this is beautiful when we have so many Dorothys. She says, I think you're talking to Dorothy Gerard, but I'll answer regarding what I used for needles on the links. I have a Janome and use the 90, which might seem large for 50 weight thread, but those are the sizes that work best with the canvas and handle the movement when thread painting. Yeah. So I think it's a pretty good bet for the 90s.
Yeah, 90 is good. And I think I've got 12, 14, and 16. Would that make sense? I have a feeling I've got 90 16s as well.
No, so honestly, I'm going to give you a little lesson here. So the 90 and 14 are always going to go together. One is the US size and the other is the European size. So it's going to be a 70-12 or an 80-12 and a 70-10, but it's always the same size. Just one is for, it's like, when you get a size 8 shoe or a 39 shoe. So you have the US sizes and the
okay, sizes. I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Really neat.
No one's ever explained that to me before.
I know. It's kind of an eye-opener because you think that it's an important number, but they're both the same number.
Yeah. They're both the same. Yeah. I'm a 38 shoe, 5 shoe.
Right. Okay, girls, do you have any other questions you want to ask Sophie before we let her go to bed? It's almost the middle of the night for her. You're welcome, Diana. She says, thanks. She didn't know that about needle sizing. You're welcome. We're full of a wealth of knowledge sometimes.
I know. Well, you are, Beth. I didn't know anything about needles. I just kind of put in what I feel works right. And I only normally buy about 2, but as I said, usually I'm stucking my my threads back on here. With the Benina, I always use the jeans and the denim needles, and they've always worked so well. So I've never really known the number of them. I just always buy that Schmidt denim needle, which always worked really well for the canvas. And and if I needed something finer, then I could just see the needle for the fineness.
Right.
But it also does help to change the half. If you're doing a huge amount of sewing and thread painting, it is a good idea to change your needle halfway through the project, because it can get very blunt when you're sewing through canvas at high speed.
Right. Well, and definitely don't use a 70 needle with the canvas, because you'll just snap them right in half. Do we need to have the background done before the first class? No, because it's going to be, Sophie's going to demonstrate it in the units. Just messed up with printing the big bird. It is.
Exactly.
It is. Phyllis says, just messed with printing the big bird. It is in US 25 inches by 30 inches. How big is the piece of canvas? I sent you a 1 yard piece.
I'm gonna get.
Go ahead.
I work in center, so.
Yeah, well, so Phyllis, I sent you a 1 yard piece of canvas, so 36 by well, and I didn't send it to you because you're coming to pick it up, but in the kits I put 36 by 60 inches. So I just cut off 1 yard, so that way you can experiment with painting it and use the whatever turns out the best. Dorothy says she's getting more excited with each passing day for the workshop to start. Thanks, Sophie and Beth, for doing this today. You are certainly welcome, Dorothy. I'm excited to see you, Dorothy, in a couple of weeks at Road to California. And Kathleen says she's excited to do this. She's never done. Wait, say it again, Sophie.
When are you going off on the road next week?
January 16th, so in a few weeks. Phyllis, I advise you not to come today. It's icy. The roads are pretty icy. And let's see. I think that's it. Tony's looking forward to the class. They're looking forward to starting. So if you're watching and you haven't signed up for the class, you can go right to Fabric Chicks. Oh gosh, now I don't even know what my website is. www.fabric-chicks.com and sign up for the Sophie Standing class. Okay, and I think that's it. Sophie, do you have anything else you want to add?
There's a link to it all as well on Instagram, on your Instagram, my Instagram, for the classes, and on Facebook as well, a link to the website shop.
Perfect. And if any of you were late to joining, good morning, Leilani. If any of you were late to joining, you can always go back and rewatch it on YouTube or Facebook. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Thank you. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Beth.
Thank you.
You take care. Thanks so much. Hope you feel better soon. Hope your cough gets better.
Me too. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll